I'm on Big Hill Creek. It is May 17th, and I'm planting along this bank here that has been really a pain to plant on because it doesn't get a lot of sunlight exposure in the summertime because it is north facing. So what I'm doing, and I've done it before, is I'm planting red osier dogwood. Now I'm just gonna hold that down against the water so you kind of see what that looks like, this cutting. It's some people call it a red willow. And the nice thing about now is the ground's a little more thawed. It is a really weird spring, so there's still ice and frost. See, like that one I could only get it in so far, but it's got a bit of in there, and it's in the capillary fringe, so it's permanently wetted. So I'm just going to leave that one, see how it goes. But I've got a thicker one. Doesn't have any bud development yet, but that's okay. It's still growing. So I'm going to put that guy up a little higher, and I'm going to kind of angle it up to stay in that richer soil zone near the surface, and there should be enough moisture in there with the thawing to keep this ground moist for a couple of weeks. So that'll get this plant started, I think. Now I'm going to plant one more on this side of this debris pile, and what I always do when I'm walking along and planting is I do a bit of a cleanup. So I'm just gonna throw that up on the shore. It'll be dry by the time I leave. Now this guy, oh yeah, he's going good. See, you can pretty much tell as you're working that cutting in if you're in solid ground. Sometimes you'll hit a bit of a, like a mole hole or something like that, or a hollow area where there's a den or an overhanging bank, and you're gonna lose your plant. So you got to be in more solid ground. You know, find a spot where it's going to go in and stay sealed. The roots are going to stay sealed from air, so that's pretty straightforward stuff. Now this guy, I'm trying to keep these things fairly low. A couple of reasons. I've had problems with vandalism, and you know, we'll just kind of keep them low. They do grow low. I planted them low before. These guys, you can see I've got quite a few in there, but eventually something will take. And because I'm doing this planting on my own nickel, meaning that it's not costing me any money really, so why not just plant a heck of a lot of cuttings? I'm retired now, and just see what happens. So you can afford to lose a lot and nobody's going to complain about it. But you know, you have to do that, saturation planting, in order to get a good crop established. So that's just common knowledge in my field. Beautiful day. Now this area right here, you can see that it is really silty compared to the section the other day, but once I get these willows started, and I have been planting and I have been successful in the past, like on both sides. Just a little further up there, you can see a willow that's starting to grow. There's one right here in front of me, and then there's this guy right here. I don't know if it'll survive, but over on this side you got that one planted into the bank. So they're They're starting in here, but I just have to keep at it. So that's why I'm here today. Now sometimes when I come to an old cutting like this guy, you got to consider that during high flows you can get debris floating down this stream. That's why the grass is always angled in a downstream direction. And these cuttings will collect debris, and sometimes it'll shred off all the branches. So what I like doing is planting on the downstream side right next to an existing cutting, push it in good, and you know that there's going to be root mass in there that will have enriched the soil from this cutting and some of the other ones. So this, if it is a dead cutting, if not, there's others nearby, I'm sure. The root systems from these new plants will actually gain that nutrient. So, you know, planting close to another plant is not a bad idea. I mean, an old plant, one that hasn't grown. See some of these old cuttings. Man, I'll tell you, I've stuck a lot of cuttings in this bank. But you know, that is the secret to success. You have to plant a lot, and you have to be persistent, never give up. Just going back down to where I left off here on this side. Might as well put in a few. Oh, we got a nice little deep area here. This is nice. So I know a brown trout will be holding in this spot once we can get some willow coverage. I planted this willow right here. You see it's kind of struggling, but there is some live limbs on it, and I'm pretty confident that it will survive. See, here's another case. I've got an old cutting right here, and I'm just going to push it right in next to it, right up. Some of these don't have leaves started on them or buds developing, so it doesn't hurt to plant another one that does have development fairly close by. So I'm just going to go in actually up a little higher. Just going to take it down. Now I want to leave that budding leaf there, or excuse me, the blossoming leaf to get a little bit of sun. Just put a little bit of grass to hide it. And despite the fact that this one is growing, I'm going to put a red osier dogwood in here. Just see how it does. See how nice that goes in there? If you just work it close down near the base, you can push these things in a long way. And this is a red osier dogwood, and see the leaves just starting to come out on those little. This is first year growth that I had left on the cutting, and I'm just going to kind of cover that because red osier dogwood are really good for growing under canopies of poplars in shaded areas on north facing slopes. So they don't need a lot of sunlight. Some people plant them right out exposed in the open, and they don't grow that fast, and that's why, because they're not designed. It's just like these spruce trees that are planted all along this creek. They're not the right plant, and the soil doesn't have the right acidity. You need a certain level of acidity in the soil for conifers, and the proper way, you know, once you establish a riparian zone that you've planted, you can plant spruce trees and you can have a smattering of them. It doesn't hurt to have a little biodiversity, but predominantly you're going to be looking at deciduous, and it is the deciduous plants like poplars, trees and aspen trees and willows that provide the organics that enrich the soil, make it a little more acidic, and then later on you'll get your spruce trees moving in. But you know, in this country, you get a few here and there. You don't have like a forest. The bad thing about a spruce tree along a path system, if it grows really dense, it encloses on the path system. You can't see the creek, you can't see the view, you can't see the wildlife. Well, the wildlife that was accustomed to the proper riparian habitat, like poplars and willows and that sort of thing, a lot of those animals have moved out in some areas because the spruce trees are a different type of habitat totally. So you get a different type of animal occupying it. Like in Cochrane here, we've got a problem with English squirrels or eastern squirrels. They're black, and then there's some gray squirrels, and they're not native. They're crowding out the Alberta red squirrel, and unfortunately conifers make prime habitat for those animals. So what the town is doing actually is they're encouraging you know, the spread of non-native varieties of animals, so by planting their conifers. So it pays to stick with the program, the natural program, and that's what I do. I plant all native varieties of salix, red osier dogwood, wolf willow, poplar, aspen, and the list goes on. And the nice thing about it is you can rest assured that you're creating the proper biodiversity for the stream system, and that's not only the terrestrial habitat but also the aquatic habitat. Like when you plant native willows and they start growing down along the creek, they start providing habitat for fish and habitat for aquatic invertebrates. And so, you know, we have to think about things like that when we're doing this sort of work. We can't just go in there and say, hey, I'm going to plant a bunch of trees and clean up the air. It doesn't work that way. We have a lot more science on the topic, and it is no secret that this system of using native plants is the best approach. It's the only approach, actually. See, this bank is starting to collapse. Now, the interesting thing is, see this? That's one of my old cuttings, and it's actually helped hold this bank together, and hopefully that'll continue till we do get a network of willow roots and poplar roots or whatever. And what that root system will do is it'll interweave itself into the soil, and it's like a reinforcement mesh, eh? So it'll hold this big chunk of sod intact. But in the meantime, we'll just see how this takes shape over time, because that's the nice thing about doing videos is you can use it for baseline, and you can come back to this exact same spot if you remember it and do a follow-up inspection. I'm going to plant a lot of willows in here. I've planted, probably 300. Today it'll be 400 of the pre-rooted cuttings, you know, with the green tops, like these guys right here. Some of them have good roots, others, you can see all these little bumps. Hold that up in the sunlight. All those little bumps are roots developing, and they're going to pop through. And so right now is the ideal time for push planting these things. Now, Here's another stick. I'm just going to go on the downstream side, push that guy in, chill the leaf. It's fairly close in. I'm just going to put a little bit of cover over it, camouflage it. This guy's doing good. I don't know if there's still a oh yeah, there's still the top of the cutting evident. You can see right here, that's the top of the original cutting. I got to get this camera, I got to get used to doing that. Sometimes I think I'm videoing a little too low. Nobody wants to look at my crotch. See this willow right here coming along nicely, and that guy was planted last year, and this guy was planted last year, so you know, I'm just going to give those guys